I think we just try to grind as hard as we can and be as real as we can and not be sweet, like, with ourselves or with each other about it. And so I think that the efforts we put into just doing it again, and like the amount of times the hundreds of pages I wrote for How to Eat a Book, for example, what turned out to be the most, the choices we made in the end came from just iterations, from just doing it again and again and again and again, and sharing with each other, sharing with our children.
Welcome to You May Contribute a Verse. I'm Brenna Jennerette, rock climber, mom, and kidlet author of The Law of Birthdays, illustrated by Marina Condro. I'm joined by my co-host, Josh Munkin, dad, kidlet author, and science communicator. This episode is proudly sponsored by Canadian children's book publisher Tealmore Press, where every book sold supports reforestation. Check out Tealmore's newest release, When the Sea Left, written by Nadine Holland and illustrated by Krista McGinley. The book explores what would happen if so much trash ends up in the sea it disappears. Check out this title and the full Tealmore catalog at tealmorepress.com, including titles like Naked, Fungi Are More Than Mushrooms, and Supermoon. Today's guest is Darrin MacLeod, one half of the dynamic Mr. and Mrs. MacLeod, who have penned popular titles like The Door That Has Never Been Opened Before and How to Eat a Book. We chat about how the Grunions were born, what it's like to work with your spouse, the early crowdsourcing of Darrin's story ideas, speaking your truth, and bringing out the best in each other. Don't miss this unique insight into the magic world of Mr. and Mrs. MacLeod, and make sure to look for their next book, Birthday Bear, coming August 2026. Here's Darrin's verse. Oh my gosh, for real? So this is not just like, you didn't just make this up for the podcast.
Yeah. No, my wife said she noticed it. She's like, yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
She's like, I'm into long necks. I gotta talk to that guy.
Cool. Yeah, check it out. Yeah, I kind of have a little beard to hide it a little, but anyway. Sure. I'm glad you could hear me. I'll try to talk into the microphone.
Yeah, emphasize the long neck, right? It's podcast friendly.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, this is my first one, and I enjoy listening to other podcasts and stuff, and just find it's been such a nice way to learn from other people and hear what's going on around the world, and so thanks so much for having me on. I think this is cool, and excited to be with you guys.
You subscribe to the Goose podcast.
That's a good
long neck aficionados.
Good call. Yeah.
Goose.
Yeah.
That's really what this podcast should be called, is the Silly Gooses. We've got the wrong mascot, I think.
What is your podcast called?
It's called You May Contribute a Verse.
Yeah?
This is your verse. Yeah, you're contributing.
Okay, cool.
Which is you asking that question is
universe.
Is a more salient question than I think you probably realize, because yes, people call us the Verse Show or You May Contribute a Verse. So many names.
Yeah. That's what I learned with the second book, The Door That Had Never Been Opened Before. Like, dang, that's such a long title. I barely say it correctly. And and so I think in this world, the more words that get mixed in there, the more the communication kind of like what are we talking about?
Things get shortened a lot. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I'm so glad you could come on, because we met at ALA, Josh. I went to a panel that Darrin was on with our friend Andrew Hackett and also Rushy Elwood, or Ellenwood. So I was really stoked to hear you and your wife talk about the books and all the stuff. And I mean, I knew who you guys were, because your books, have their own reputation, their own life now. So it's very cool that you wanted to come on and chat with us, because I can't wait to hear all about the books and like your creative process and the whole journey to, being agented and all of that. So we can start with like how long have you and your wife been working together, author illustrating together? How did that happen?
Yeah. So Kelly and I met in San Francisco about probably like 15 years ago now. And from there, we just, I wooed her with little poems.
And your long
stories,
neck.
Little stories. Yeah. The physical stuff aside. But, right. Trying to really, really tie in. Most of that didn't work for quite a while. We became really good friends. And And we've kind of just done everything together. And now as our relationships developed over time, she has a real significant background in art and design and worked in all sorts of different ways in collaborative professional settings. And me, I'm more like the type that would travel beaches and just, I've been writing since I was a little kid and but really love it. And it's just a way for me to clarify my own experiences and to try to sort through what it is to, be a person wherever you are. And so as that's developed over time for myself, for the writing, I'll speak more to because I know more about it because me. So for the writing, I've noticed that like as I sorted through figuring out truth for myself, I then started to realize like, hey, it's fun to share some of this with other people. And then as Kelly and I developed a family and I, back in the day, at a surf school. So I've taught thousands of little kids how to surf. And that's where I got to know like, oh, I really like young people. I love unfiltered people. I like people that just share, from the heart. And so that's where that started to grow in me. Like, I think it's interesting. Like before that, I'd write plays in college and stuff like that for more my own age group. But as I got older, I started to enjoy just the spirits of the younger folks more. And then as Kelly and I had our own family and developed, this center for our own life, just trying to explain to a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old what's so amazing about the seashells they're sharing with me, and like that's all you got to share with me, and that's so cool, and it's so amazing, and let's like talk about it and figure out like what's making this experience special. So like I wrote a story like The Boy with Buried Treasure. It was one of those first like I'm like adopting and doing things to try to share with my own children in a sincere way what I can kind of piece together is somewhat true. So basically, our collaborative experience has been this like meshing of like a kind of an internal calling of just me wanting to like figure out how to share some truth with myself and now my kids, and now like extending my kids to our kids, to every kid, to, just sharing experiences. And I think that matched with Kelly, my wife, who's an amazing artist. And like when I draw stuff, people just laugh, but not like in the fun way.
Not in a great
just more like they're like,
way.
oh,
Yeah.
That's cute. Like, is that a bird? Is that really a bird? It's like square.
They're really trying to like meet you where you are. Like they want to get there, but they can't. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not like a pug dog that's like cute and ugly. It's just like just the ugly part. So we have a really cool understanding of like creating stories together, which is really great because, with like a picture book in particular, with the words on page versus what's being shown, it's much like a movie or a play where you're able to direct the scenes. My eyes work okay. So Kelly and I, she'll show me images and we'll look it over. And so collaborating in that form has been really effective for us. And especially since like, our talents are really complementary. And so she can listen to the words and stuff and say like, she's my razor and pretty good at that. And the same from my side towards her. So I think as a collaborative team, we really help each other and build each other's art, extend it. And it's so nice just to have that constant feedback that's right there and that cares and that knows, our characters are called the Grunions. And so it's like if you stuck all 7 of us in a blender, like my 5 kiddos and wife, myself, and even the grandparents. So like 10 of us in a blender and poured out some smoothies and kind of stirred them around, whatever. Like these are the characters. And so she knows them as well as I do. And so as we go on the story creating process, I think that we're just really fortunate to have each other and to be able to do it together, even though it's probably way more stress. Like you guys know, from working at this stuff that like you care a lot about it. So when somebody's like, you're like, well, that hurts a little, but it's okay because in the end it's all love and it's just trying to share the message we're really intending to share, like given, the subject or whatever it is.
Well, that it's all love perspective. is the attitude with which I presume you approach your collaboration with Kelly, because there are ways in which that could go horribly awry. Spouses have lots of differences, no matter what the subject matter is. Creative differences. It seemed like it's a subject area that could potentially be really dicey and contentious. How was it a struggle for you all, you two, to find ways to work together in the best ways possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I think spot on. I mean, just like human nature being what it is, and coming from a place of caring, right? It's like when you care is when it hurts. And I remember like an old baseball coach in college telling me, like, he was just so mean. And one day he had a talk with me, and he was just like, it's because I care. Like, I think you're really good. And like when a coach is yelling at you or whatever, however my style is, it's out of care. And so that kind of like opened my eyes, and not that's how we do it, but I do
give you freedom to yell as much as you wanted to.
I am. Yeah, we live in the woods here, so yelling. Yeah, you might hear some yelling at any moment from, because it's such a rainy day. The kids are scattered, but just the freedom to share our truth, but also, and I think what really helps, Josh, is that we're both doing it. So I think we feel it both ways, where it's like Kelly will share with me how she thought that the writing was really great, and then that this part totally lost her, wasn't funny, was way too sentimental. Like, what am I trying to write? Something to share with grandmas who are consoling each other, or am I trying to like make a fun story for kids? Like, what am I up to on this line? Like, what happened here? And then the feedback I can give her, like with a piece of art or whatever, just being like, is that an ear? And she's like, no, that's his nose. And it's like, well, it's in the middle of his face. I get that, but it just looks like an ear. Like, I mean, I'm just looking, and so I think that we both. And she's like, and then I'm like, well, remember yesterday when I wrote that, and you're like, dude. So I think over time, we've gotten that back and forth enough where we see it in ourselves. It's like, oh, you're right, I'm doing that now. And so it's something. Yeah. It's like there's that old story, like the Buddhist monks it's like they're in a sash together, and they're like rocks at first, and then over time they kind of round each other out into beautiful marble stones type stuff. It's like we don't want to lose our edge, but I think that we appreciate that we are kind of like grinding each other into a spot where more minds are able to relate to what we want to share. It's like, I think that's our goal with the art and with the communication, is like, how can we present stuff that will have the most amount of, brains be like, yeah, that kind of resonates with me. So I think her and I have super different personalities, which is really helpful. And so I think that we've just kind of come to accept it more and more as a good thing. And even though it's a tough thing, that it's good for our work. And then in our, just relationship, we know that, and we're able to like kind of like put those two different things on different platters and be like, it's cool. We're stoked. Yeah.
Who started it? The picture book collaboration specifically.
All me. Don't let Mrs. MacLeod say otherwise. I even get credit in the Library of Congress for being the illustrator, even though I am not. Yeah. we talked about, we're like, I don't know that anybody's reading that. but we did.
It's the official record.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And
also you're the one that's on the podcast right now. So,
Correct. Yeah, one little step after another. And Kelly just has it so easy because she's just so darn good. It's like she makes these spreads, she draws these things, and then when we meet with the art directors and editors or whatever, it's like they read my stuff and they're like, I thought we had talked about this.
If the listening audience could hear the expression.
Right.
They probably came through.
Utter shock and confusion.
Yeah. I'm known to just double down. It's like if they tell me they don't, like something or whatever, that often cues my head to like, I need to maybe express it twice as much. And so those, you know, like I go for, and it often is true. And so, but with Kelly, no, it's like her picture book skills are so strong that she'll show the team. They're like, oh, wow. Oh, that's great. And we just like, it's like such an easy meeting. And it's like, dang. Remember,
you go, Darrin, can
like
you get on my
month
level?
we were talking about text. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
that was so brutal. Like, you know, the IRS. What's going on here? Jeez. Yeah. So even though I started, I think she's just such a natural that, and it's not that I started. I mean, I think I started in the sense that, and I am being sincere, that I just always wrote silly stories for no reason. Besides, like I said, kind of explaining stuff to myself at first. And like, I just have just heaps of that. And that's how I kind of went through my days, like of being like a vagabond, you know, on the beach, surfing, traveling around everywhere I could, just writing, and not like journal style, just always story style for whatever silly reason. And
I don't know how you didn't win over Kelly immediately, Darrin. A traveling, writing, a vagabond poet with a surf school?
Right.
Open and shut case,
right?
man.
Thank you, Josh. I've been trying to tell her that for you.
And you're here in, in a blazer and what looks like a sweater vest and a nice button-down shirt, real put together for the listening audience.
Thank you. This shirt actually, my friend, he gave it to me off his back. I have a dear friend named Max, and Max just visited from Berlin. He's been living in Berlin the last 20 years, and about 8 years ago, he gave me this jacket, as he calls it, not the jacket, but the shirt that he calls a jacket. He gave me this jacket off his back. He was wearing it like a shirt because it's a shirt. And so I was like, Max, that is such a beautiful shirt. And he just took it right off and gave it to me. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. And so I've been wearing, it's kind of like a blue pirate blouse. That's why I have another shirt under, so I'm not like too much neck. And so the blue, right. I think, and I'm colorblind, so it might not be blue, but this one is pretty. And I love it. And I was listening to you, Josh, call it a sweater vest. So I'm going to share this with my good friend Max, like, you know, over email later, how this was identified as a sweater vest perhaps as well. Because the truth of what this piece of clothing is like unfolding before our eyes. And Max has really good style. I mean, these buttons, the length between the buttons themselves, like it starts way low. Then each button has a good like 5 inches or, you know, centimeters, European style. It's like 20 centimeters per, but it's enough. It's enough. So I think that, is it a shirt? Is it a sweater vest? Is it a jacket, as Max claims it to be? But Max is also a known storyteller. So I'm going to go with you, Josh. Sweater vest.
And I blame the lighting on my misinterpretation of that article of clothing, but I'm glad that I asked about it.
It's just an alternate explanation for whatever it is, keeping me warm. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, so you guys work so collaboratively together. Do you have a critique group or anyone that you send stuff out to? I mean, besides, you know, your agent, your editors, like, or is it just a very like sort of close amalgam of like you and Kelly?
Yeah, it's mostly us because we annoy our friends enough with other things. And we don't have like a professional critique group or things like that, though they do seem, I'm sure there's a lot of benefits from that kind of situation. But I think we just try to grind as hard as we can and be as real as we can and not be sweet, like, you know, with ourselves or with each other about it. And so I think that the efforts we put into just doing it again, and like the amount of times the hundreds of pages I wrote for How to Eat a Book, for example, you know, it's a 48 spread book with limited words and yada, yada, yada. But like Sheila, Gerald, and Geraldine did a lot of different things that are not in that book at all. Like, and I think they're pretty good, and they are. But what turned out to be the most, you know, the choices we made in the end came from just iterations, from just doing it again and again and again and again, and sharing with each other, sharing with our children. I use my kids' charter school. They go to a really sweet charter school. So I have some really friendly guinea pigs at Pacific Coast Community Charter School, and they're so cute and they're so real.
Amazing.
Yeah, totally. So like and I see the Law of Birthdays book.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I have it on
yeah.
the wall. Yeah,
Yeah. So up next for the Grunions is a book called The Birthday Bear, and the Birthday Bear.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
is coming. Yeah, so I shared with them, with the kindergartners, first graders, second graders, whatever, did a presentation, kind of shared some stuff. And I could tell when they're losing it or when they're in it and all that kind of stuff, right? Like kids are so transparent. There's yeah. So I feel really fortunate. I feel that like the critique group and also I'm super random in the sense that I love asking random people randomly at random times what they think of this line or this title or this versus that. And, I find the more annoyed they are with me or like just kind of like, I don't interrupt families or I have my boundaries. But if it's like a grandma and grandpa walking their poodle by the beach and it's just us there, they're just great to ask. What do they think about this or that? And they'll be pretty darn real. And so that's sort of my critique group is just sampling from as many different sort of people, like kind of going back to like, I want to share stuff that resonates with as many people as possible. And so I guess that like, that's why I do it that way, that I find that like kind of going outside, the world of people thinking about stories and thinking about stuff like that themselves, just like random folks like out and about. I like to talk with them about it.
I adore the mental picture of you sauntering up to an elderly couple with their poodle on the beach with you in your pirate shirt and saying like, would you mind taking a look at this Grunion spread for me?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. No, it's a really small town we live in, so it's like it's pretty much how I make friends.
You've tapped the entire town.
Yeah, they know.
They know
to steer clear.
It's like crowdsourced.
Old man storyteller critiquing. Coming by. Yeah.
Right. Everybody look away.
Yeah. My ears are broken. I don't know. Yeah. It's great.
Sorry.
It's great.
I'm busy today. This puts me in mind of like something that's closer to stand-up comedy than the traditional way that people approach picture book writing and collaborating, in the sense that, you talking about these one-on-one organic reactions for people being putting me in mind of the comedian Maria Bamford, who is incredibly bizarre in her own right. But, back when Twitter was Twitter, I remember her making great effort to say, I'd like to practice this joke. Is any random individual available to Zoom with me while I practice this joke? And you don't see her.
Awesome.
We don't see this because we're not part of the stand-up community, and I'm sure that this exists to a certain extent. Her going to other comedians and saying, "Does this resonate?" But really, stand-ups and other people who present their work to the public do so, refine their work with the public as it evolves. And so I think that's a really smart approach, that it takes a bold customer to just be willing to be that publicly and interpersonally vulnerable, right? Yeah,
I think right on. I think that's a really good perspective. I appreciate that. And I haven't thought about it that way myself yet, but no, it totally resonates. And I think that, yeah, thanks. I think that's a cool way to look at it. I love stand-up comedy. And I think that with our sharing of stories and stuff with the kids, Kelly and I are really focused on getting funnier and just funny or what's the point? Because the time, I mean, there's lots of points, but for us, the point really is to know that these young folks are like these young folks are interacting with people that really care about them. Because if you're reading a book to kids, you really care about them in some way, on, to the deepest level or like, lots of levels, but it means you care a lot, and it's really, really good time spent. And so we feel it's a giant win just to be a part of the community of people providing, books to read to kids, because like that action itself, sort of like a nice warm fire or whatever, like it just doesn't get old. It's really important on lots of levels. And so like since they're already there, we feel that and just sharing like who we are, like we like to have fun. So the funny, the humor driving the story is just trying to give like levity to this crazy experience we're all going through, because everybody's got their own stuff. Any part of the world could be reading this book on any given day. And given all that, just knowing that they're already with people that care about them. So that's great. I don't have to like be like, I love you, because the people that really love them are right there. And so just to give a little levity, I think is something that I've appreciated in my own life, from, listening to storytellers and starting with like my dad and like, all sorts of just great, funny people, my uncles and around the campfire and stuff, just making me laugh, making everybody laugh, and knowing that like, one of them's dying of like lung cancer and the other one's got this and this is happening to this person. But I didn't know that because I'm a kid, and those times were the greatest times. And sharing stories is like, as human as it gets, and that's how we kind of understand stuff. And so anyway, I'm rambling now, but yeah, I just think that we're just in a really good spot to be able to share with them.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. I love that perception of it, because I agree. Like a little levity for everybody right now goes like such a long ways. What can you talk a little bit about like how you guys get an idea? Like, does it usually come through you first and then Kelly illustrates? Or is it Kelly comes with an idea and it's like, oh, I drew this like really funny scene. Like, what do you think? Can we like make a story from this? Or is it much more collaborative than that?
It's usually I do all the writing and the story creation, and then Kelly draws after. So it's pretty much the standard. Yeah, it's how it's worked for us throughout, where like I'll write a little story and then we'll talk about it, and then Kelly will, one of us is watching all the kids. And so
I was gonna ask about that. When do you?
Yeah, we don't have like babysitters or not yet. They're too wild and crazy. It's like, good luck to us. So one of us, like the last few days, for example, I've been taking care of the kiddos. Kelly's been working on the cover for Birthday Bear. And the Birthday Bear itself is like came from like this little bear that we used to bring out at all the birthdays. Is a little ceramic bear that would show up on your birthday. It has a little heart on its little thing. And then thinking about where ideas come from, I think is like, so like to me, this idea of the Birthday Bear for our next book has come from like so many different places, and ideas. I'm sure, as you guys have felt, it's like nobody owns them, nobody knows where they come from. They're not from me, they're not from you, and we share them. And the way that like we conduct them and share them, that's us. Like that, to me, that's the part that's like, at least I'll speak for myself, that's me. So the way that I share this little bit of truth I want to share is my style. But the truth itself, or the idea itself, is not my idea. I know that. Because it's like, it's something that's older and has resonated. I mean, who knows how old we are, but like, it's something that's like older and more universal, and has like, little bits of it from so many places that ideas are so interesting. And I think that like when we're able to be open and feel them and hear them and share them, then they start to come more and more to life. And so like the idea of the Birthday Bear came from like three places. Like the little ceramic bear that would come out, this little bear with little hearts, like, what's he up to? Every birthday is here. And then last year he got broken because all of our dishes are steel. Not all. I mean, actually we have like one coffee mug, but the other coffee mug, steel. And like all our plates are steel, just like hardcore, not even soft steel, hard steel, like 18x8, like endurance, like strong steel, so it doesn't get broken. So that poor Birthday Bear got broken last year, and I think it kind of like got in my head. And then
drinking from
just
the
the
steel
idea
mug.
of birthdays.
Yep.
What's that?
Just letting the listening audience know you're drinking from the steel mug.
Yeah,
Pausing.
for sure.
Yeah.
It keeps it warm. Double wall insulated, so I'm not burning my little hands.
Those are great.
So that's nice.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty good. And so the birthday bear came from like this little bear, and then we make a big deal about birthdays because we do have a lot of 5 little kids, so it's a lot, and like we respect that everybody loves to get all the attention sometimes. And so like for us, like we've experienced over time the joy and the love of just really like recognizing one person on their birthday and being like, hey, let's all, and we've enjoyed it so much. And I think it's a big reason is because all the rest of us are not thinking about ourselves. We're all thinking about that other person. And so that just really works out great for our own family dynamic for whatever reasons. So it's something to celebrate. And then I have this old friend, Guitar Joe, also known as Monster Joe by my kids because he's kind of a crazy tickle machine. And so Monster Joe, Guitar Joe, we used to live in a place we called the Fungeon in San Francisco. And it was like, we didn't have that much money to pay rent and stuff. And so there was like a bunch of us and we lived like underneath a house. Like, I don't think this is okay. I wouldn't do it again. But like there's a house and then there was like the street. Like I remember looking out my window, I'd go like that and I could like see the gutter. And I'm like, dang, we're living in a dungeon, Joe. And Joe's like, it's a fungeon. And I'm like, you're right, Joe. We're having fun. And so
amazing. And then he tickled you?
Yeah.
Hoping you're not ticklish on your neck is
right.
Is
no,
where my
just my belly
concern
button. Yeah. No, my daughter figured it out yesterday. I was like, oh gosh. And so Joe told me the story of the bear because you tell me stories late at night. And he told me the story. Sorry, audience. I'm recovering from a cough.
This is as real as it gets.
It's so real. And Joe's story is so real. So Guitar Joe told me one night, he said, you know about the bears? I was like, yeah, what about bears? He's like, they're horrifying, right? I'm like, yeah, of course. They're monsters. And he's like, yeah. He's like, did you know nobody knows what the original name of the bear is? And I was like, what? And he's like, yep. And so it turns out like pre-tribal folks, pre-everybody, like they got together and they're like, yo, you know that animal that comes by and eats all of us? Let's not say that animal's name anymore. Because we notice whenever we say its name, it comes by. And it just eats us all, remember? And they're like, don't say that name. Don't say that name. Don't say it. And so everybody stopped saying it. The agreement was there. And from that point on, it became like bear in that region. They're like, instead we'll call it bear, meaning like brown one. I say, the linguistical history of the bear a little bit. And there's various names, but like nobody knows the original one. Because if you say it, it shows up. And so combining birthdays, bears, this little ceramic thing, these ideas swirling around in my head kind of like morphed into the birthday bear, where the Grunion characters, they're twins, Gerald and Geraldine. So Gerald and Geraldine are having their birthday, and that's a whole little thing. And then there's this legend of the birthday bear. Do not say its name. Don't you dare. Or the terrifying beast will appear and eat all of the sweets. Sweet children first. And no one would want that. Well, almost no one. And then Geraldine's like, I'm gonna do it. And
I'm gonna poke the bear, so to speak.
Yeah. So it's like, again, just kind of in our trajectory of wanting to have more fun with the stories, make them funnier, and just do all we can to share like sincerity, but not being over serious about it. And that's what we've been up to a lot lately.
It doesn't sound like you risk being over serious. especially
Oh,
with
but
Birthday
so
Bear.
much, Josh. No, that's just my facade. Yeah, my serious fingers here. They grip that little pen sometimes, or they type or whatever, and then I read it. I'm like, dang, am I like a middle school dude, just egoing out about the center of me and like what is life? And it's
Angst
like, hold it, I'm trying to write Birthday Bear stuff, dude. I ain't trying to. Yeah, no,
Just
it
lighten
comes
up a
out,
little
man.
bit.
I'm just like, oh, get over it, Darrin. Like, move on. This is a story. I'm not writing for myself. Like, only. Like, come on. Yeah. So I think it's a process for sure. A process of letting that go and trying to share the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just channeling Guitar Joe to the
Yeah,
extent
he's
that you
there.
can.
Like, these things are. Yeah. No, I'll tell Kelly like a line or two. It's like, I think I have a good like auditory memory, so like when I hear somebody say something funny once, it's like stuck in there somehow. And like those moments, those life moments are just so fun to share, right? In like different ways and in different forms. So yeah, that's definitely part of the humor of just sharing all the funny friends we have.
It's time for this week's book reviews. Josh's review for this week is for Anita Yasuda's Up, Up, Ever Up, illustrated by Yuko Shizumu. 1 year ago, we released our chat with Anita, and it's about dang time Josh reviewed her bio of Junko Tabe. Anita's language is evocative, driving, caring, and well-paced, but the way it's paired with Yuko's artwork is exceptional. The art evokes classic Japanese illustration styles, and especially the way the factual biography is in places illustrated in a fantastical, non-realistic way, makes it so emotionally grounded and riveting. John's review for this week is Teeny Tiny Toady by Jill Esbaum, illustrated by Keika Yamaguchi. Teeny Tiny Toady is a sweet and surprising picture book that shows how the smallest hero can still save the day, or their mama. The rhymes bounce along with plip-plop, slop-plop fun. With adorable illustrations, fun rhyme, and a solid core concept, John gives it 5 bucket rescues out of 5. And my review for this week is I Come From Another Galaxy by James Kwan. Being the new kid is hard, but what if you're the new kid in space? James's new classmates are all aliens who know how to use the robot bathroom with its many weirdo buttons and play slime ball. James is feeling left out until he lets his new classmates know what's bothering him. Together, they find a way to include James and warm our hearts in the process. A quirky, bright book that belongs on any bookshelf. Don't forget to get your own reviews and library requests in. It's the #1 way to help an author's sales. And if you want to support the pod, make sure to check out our Linktree at linktree/verseshow to give a community shout out, buy merch, or become a Patreon. And now, back to our show. Yeah.
Staying
It's
open
amazing.
to, I love the way that you think about ideas, and how you relate this idea process, because you're right. I mean, whether or not you think of it in a metaphysical sense, and I don't know, I'm spirituality agnostic in the sense that I don't know that there's some extra dimensional place where ideas reside, but you are absolutely right that they don't come from us. We don't come up with ideas on our own. They're built of, to use the Kamala Harris quote, we exist in the context, in all which came before us, right? All the Guitar Joe anecdotes put together become the ideas that make us creative, right? And I think it's a fascinating and open way to think about being creative. Is just channeling, right?
Yeah. Because it's like there's not a physical, right? You can't go to your chest and grab out a stack of ideas and
Right.
put them in the machine and start cranking away. So yeah, and I think also anything worth sharing, I mean, that's too big a statement, but like so many things worth sharing just have like a resonancy and a vibration to them that I've noticed. Like I'll be working on a story and then I'll hear like, oh, there's a movie coming out called this, and it's like the same theme. And then there's a song called this, and it's like the same theme. And it's like, whoa, there's a lot of people working on this same theme, which is like kind of an odd theme. Like it's about a wishing well, or it's about this, or, I'm just like, and I've noticed that over the last, 5 years for sure, as And it's kind of like, of course, like when you buy a new car, you're like, oh, I didn't know there's so many VW Jettas on the road. Like, look at all of us
Right.
cruising around
So
now.
like
So,
confirmation bias. Yeah,
so for sure,
Yeah.
there's some of that, but for sure, there's also like just an interesting like way that our world goes about sharing information and ideas, and how precisely that comes to be, who knows, no one, but I think that it's like an affirmation that we're connected. And I think that in the end, stories, that's what they're there for, to connect us with each other, to connect us, with ourselves, to connect us with all sorts of things that we haven't even thought about yet. So I think that the more that I've been involved in storytelling, the more that I've come to appreciate the value it's had in my own life before becoming a storyteller. And also just like just how cool it is to be able to share through this medium, the life that we're all living. It's just like a real, a really, it's more natural than I thought. Because before, like I mentioned, when I was just surfing, vagabonding, cruising, I'm definitely like nature focused, nature boy. So I would save up my money all summer and then go travel through like Central America and Mexico and camp on the beach and just, sleep in my hammock and do that like year after year and just do a lot of that. And I was like, this is like good. This is like, this feels good. And I felt much better. And so kind of steering myself in a natural direction has been my MO. And then, as I mentioned, I've always been writing, but I was like, when I was younger, it's like, I never thought of sharing. And my mommy would be like, you should share your stories. They're so good. And all that kind of stuff. I'm like, Mama, I'm living. I'm not writing. I'm just living. And so now I've kind of like matured and learned and seen how like, oh, wow, like creating a story is also living. You can write and be alive at the same time. So that evolution of my own thought of just understanding that stories are more powerful and more alive than I previously gave them credit for has given me kind of fresh life into like really wanting to do my best that I can, and Kelly is super driven also, but we just find it like a worthwhile path, I guess is a good way to say it.
So how did you start like deciding to actually share the story? I guess specifically like your querying journey. Like did you start with How to Eat a Book and you were like, this is really good, it's polished, like let's start querying? Was that the book that landed Joan? Like how did that sort of look? When did you guys decide to do that?
Yeah, we tried a book before called I'm Free as the Forest of Beauty. And it's sort of like this long poem that I'd written a long time ago. I thought it's really great. Still do. Kelly still thinks it's so. So does everyone. and so anyway, that did not get, just got a bunch of rejections, and we're like, dang, I thought it was pretty good. And then, and so then we went back to work, and with How to Eat a Book, that was our next one that we put together and queried out. And yeah, it vibed with Joan right away. And so it was interesting where sort of like the, sorry, I got a funny message. This is Kelly. I'm a caveman. So like, this was a big ordeal for us to set up the microphone, the computer, all this stuff. So something came up on the computer. It's kind of funny. I was like, I don't know how to do anything. So sorry. So for How to Eat a Book, we put it out there, and I think it was like a Twitter or something. Like it wasn't even the traditional like send out the query, to different emails or whatever. Kelly is the one who actually did all the actual messaging. So she did something with Twitter, and then it got some like people were like, oh, How to Eat a Book. That's that sounds cool. And then right away, Joan, it really resonated with her, and so she contacted us, and then we just had a good vibe from the get. And could tell that she was serious, and awesome, and really liked the work, right? Which is so important, like on so many levels. But so it all just kind of happened like a path of the heart, like just really pretty smooth, pretty just like bam, got it. And that was really exciting and a game changer for us to have more time to focus on the book stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Having an agent, take over like a chunk of that time suck is like so helpful. Because if you're just, trying to get your stuff out and whatnot, and it sounds like Kelly did a lot of that. So she was sort of putting stuff out and like querying, and maybe it sounds like maybe it was like a contest or something, like a pitch contest maybe, or did she just
something
put
like
it
that?
out?
Yeah, for the first
okay.
for the how to
Yeah,
it was like she's like, I think this is like pretty good. There's like a lot of people on looking at other people's stuff. So we just had a drive and like a determination, and we weren't gonna stop for sure until we're dead. So
I love how sort of like casual it was for you guys. You're like, well, I don't know, it seems good. There's this thing on Twitter happening, because like people, like a lot of people in the Kidlit community will for like months, they've got all this stuff checked off on their calendar. They're planning pitches. They're like critiquing each other and sharing back and forth and like timing and scheduling and all this stuff. And you guys are like, I don't know, let's throw it up there, see what happens. And then Joan from EMLA, which is like, one of the standard Kidlit agencies to be a part of, is just like, oh yeah, I'm going to come to you and ask to represent you. Like, that's kind of a dream. Like, it's, you guys are, clearly talented and meant to be agented, but it just sounds so easy.
And based on the last 40 minutes, I would have been real surprised to hear that the two of you had followed a traditional path to getting agented.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
yeah, and I think, I hear you, Brenna, and I think that I'm probably just making it sound easier, because it didn't feel everything. It all feels really earned, I guess, for us, because it's like I know how many words I write down and have forever, and not with like the intention or the direction of like, oh, this is because of this, and I'm going to try to like figure it out and do it this way because maybe that would work. It's like, it's just what I do, and I know it. And, when me and my homies hang out at the park and play basketball, I'm always trash talking. And like when we're hanging out wherever, I never stop talking. And like now my kids, like some of them never stop talking and the other ones don't talk at all, like, or as much, because somebody's always talking. And so like sharing, and like I mentioned, my dad and my uncles, and it's like I and my grandma and my other, and so... So I think for us, it feels earned, just with the amount of blabbering I've done over the days, and also being a baseball player. Like that was a huge part of my life, and like it's definitely one of the most boring sports on earth, and even more so for like if you're a pitcher like me, like one out of every few days you get to pitch, and so like most of the time you just tell stories with friends. And Max, actually Berlin Max with his shirt, vest, jacket, was our second baseman. Yeah, a pretty average second baseman, but he had good style. And so, just playing baseball, I count that as lots of time put into becoming a storyteller, because that's mostly we're just BSing each other out there, just talking stuff. And so I think that like the amount of effort and energy put into the work that we do is a ton. And I feel that like I really support and encourage everyone who has, stories they want to share to, for us, what's worked is just working on the stories and not overemphasizing, for us, again, saying like, this is how it's turned out. Like for us, I know that the efforts we put into have been on the artistic side and the writing side and all that. And that day after day, we just put in lots of time, and that's all added up to make it, that one moment seem like somewhat like, oh yeah, but it's like, dude, lots of work. It feels earned, and
10,000 hours.
Yeah, it feels good.
Totally. I mean, you guys showed up like ready to go. So like,
right.
I mean, it was no mistake that you guys, connected with Joan. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't think there's a question here, just a reflection in comparison with other conversations we've had. We've talked to other people for the podcast whose vision is button seat, hands on keyboard, pound away at the work. And we've also talked to people who, like me, take the perspective of anytime that you're thinking about writing counts as writing, even if you're not putting words down on paper, as long as you're being intentional about the lived experience translating to the written word, then that counts. And it really sounds like you all, I mean, in terms of what you've said already about living your truth and discovering yourself, part of that really seems to be trying your best to stay attuned to the world around you and how you relate to other people and how other people's lived experiences relate to other people who could benefit to hear about those lived experiences. So yeah, it's a real intentionality that probably puts a lot more life into your work than it might otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. I totally agree with that, like, perspective. And like I heard how like Bob Marley would often like sit around with his buddies and they'd talk about an idea for a song, and then they kind of chit chat about it, and like throughout the afternoon, throughout the next day, throughout a soccer game, throughout morning coffee. And then by the next afternoon, they kind of have like most of that song done together. And that kind of that vibration, that residency of that sort of effort of friendly, the friendliness of it, the inclusivity of it, all those things. It's not an accident. It doesn't happen from just sitting alone and doing something alone to bring that out. That's like, probably more like a Bob Dylan song, like just like doing his.
But yeah, it's clear that a song like "No Woman, No Cry" came from a bunch of dudes sitting around together chatting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, oh man, there's some crazy stuff. There's an interesting thing I'll share with you from Bob Marley, just since we're becoming friends here. So there's a Bob Marley song called "The Natural Mystic," and when I was like in my early 20s, one of my first trips through like this jungle part of Central America, and I was there for a few months in between two trees, and I had one little tape player, and so anyway, it was one of the only songs I heard. And there's a part that goes like, ooh, and the song talks about there's a natural mystic in the air, and if you listen carefully, you'll hear blah 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 blah, like if you're like on the cement pass, you don't hear it. If you're this or that. And all of a sudden, like after a few months, every once in a while I'd hear the ooh. And there really is so much to, whether it's a sound that's heard in our own head, if it's a sound that's heard in the forest, if it's a sound, like who knows where these sounds, ideas and this energetic transfer comes from. But I find that like, that it's exciting and it's interesting, and it's like it's definitely a lot more than we are, and it also like adds to what we are. And so in the sense of just sharing stories together and collaborating and creating things that are fun and interesting, I think that that the collaborative force of we talked a little bit about, Josh, with the like where do ideas come from, and the whole metaphysical versus physical versus, it's like, dude, like physics are so interesting, and they're so interesting because they're so not understood. And the parts that are understood are really interesting. And the things that do work prove it. And it's like, wow, it's such a magical world that, the deeper you get into it, the more magical it starts to unveil itself as. And like observing it then takes away the reality of it. So like the reality of it is still unknown. And so anyway, I'm sorry. I get excited.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say is like such a great reminder, because I feel like so much of us get sort of stuck in this like isolated, alone writing experience. And it's so important to have that community of people who are also doing it and can kind of like commiserate or like share an idea or like bounce that energy off of each other. Like it's part of why I love doing the podcast. Like I'm guaranteed to be able to talk to Josh at least once a week and like another guest, and we can all just sit and chat about writing and like what it means and ideas. And because just doing it on your own is such a sort of narrow singular path. Like, you can provide sort of the starting point, but it's so helpful to have that other input, you know, from critique groups or, you know, spouses or kids or whatever, to sort of help like grow the story. And it, to your point, you know, once you sort of give that story up to the universe, you know, you start querying it or it gets sold or whatever. Now it's not just yours. It's, you know, it's everybody's, because your agent had a say in it, and then your editor and the illustrator and, you know, and then an audience ultimately, right? Like, you can't guarantee what they're going to take from the story. Most of the time, you know, you get across what you're trying to, but there's all kinds of things that they can read into it or take from. So it's more of this like follow through on collaborating, and the idea sort of just takes off on its own, which is, you know, kind of the beauty of it. So it's a great reminder just not to forget about that, and, you know, have that community and that input.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How?
I squashed everything.
No. This is continuous to something that I wanted to bring up, which is how. I mean, how do you reconcile the business aspect of what you're doing, or do you not pay attention to that and let Joan handle it? Because aside from having a well fleshed out, really attractive creative work product that resonates with people, also your books are getting noticed and recognized, and that's reflected in the quality of the product. But there are businessy conversations and negotiations that happen along with that. Mm-hmm. So what is that negotiation like, and how do you guys reconcile that with your relationship with Joan, or Union Kids, or beyond?
No, it's we're definitely learning a lot along the way. And I think that just sort of what I do is I base most of it on my limited knowledge of sports contracts. I pretend that we're like young, up and coming, NBA players or whatever.
Amazing.
And I think about like how our career's going so far. Like this is actually how I do it. And it's not always NBA because they might have a salary cap, but maybe MLB. I don't want to have a salary cap. And so we think a little bit about like, okay, we came out rookie year playing ball, doing our thing. And there's other teams that could, want our services or not. Like, what's our batting average? How are we doing? And so I don't pay attention to like the numbers of a book sold or things like that. I know that they do. And I know it's really important, of course, for respecting the work that everybody's doing, and just like it's a big project and a big group of people working on these things together. So I think that for the business side of things, that just like playing sports, it's like the only way to do our best is just to like completely focus on our work. And so we kind of keep our nose down, and if it feels stressful, we just work harder. If it feels hard, like if it's like, ooh, I wonder, I worry, like we don't get into like, how do we sell our books? How do we get online and sell? Like we just kind of like work harder. I'm like, okay. And so like we have another series of books coming out pretty soon called Baby Grandma and Baby Grandpa. And there's a little grandma on every baby, little grandpa on every baby. And so it's like a real like sincere, sweet look at like how hilariously similar babies and grandparents are, because we've been around them a lot lately in our own life. And it's just like my little Mac right now, he's just said he's the captain of the family, little Captain Mac, just bossing all of us around like a grandpa would. He's so salty. And so for like our work and our life and feeding our kids and taking care of ourselves, I think that we just put a priority on working and making sure we're putting in, hours and hours and time of, like, I agree with you, Josh. It's not like butt and seat type. Like I like to walk around and write from, I carry around 2 clipboards often. I'll have 2 clipboards and I'll fill up one clipboard with just a stack of papers. And I'll walk around and I'll write. And usually I'll get through the whole stack and they'll end up on the other clipboard. And then I can come home and kind of like sort through them the next day or two, put them up on the wall, check them out, have a cup of coffee, check them out, go do that again a couple days later. I found that like editing and creating at the same time, not the best idea for me. Usually kind of just go all out, go wild and let it all go, and then kind of hone it in a little bit and focus it later in a different mindset. I know George Carlin, thinking of the comedy peoples, such a great writer and prolific writer, and produced a lot. Just had said kind of similar things just with the editing creative process. I had heard him say something kind of similar for himself. And so, I'm sorry, I lost my train of
No, there's a certain element of getting out of your own way. And yeah, I didn't expect the answer to be to subdivide that creative process in that way, but it's an important point. In order to get the work done. Yeah, just
right. And I think like working with our editor, working with the art directors, and just, we do our best to be as responsible as we can, and to show up to the meetings, and to show up on time, and to have our work done, and try to overdo it, and show them what we got. And yeah, I learned something from Mel Brooks. I heard an interview he had once. He said, when the money people come by and they look at my oh, you got to change that. You got to change this. You got to change that too. And I just told him, okay, I'll change it. And then he never changed it. and so, yeah, I think that like working with the editors and the publisher and everybody else is like we love who we work with, like, for reals, and it's really great. And our editor throughout the work so far is a woman named Tracy Keevan, who works with like Mo Willems and has been a really strong editor in the industry for years and years. And yeah, she kind of feels like my big, don't tell her, older sister, slightly older. Yeah, I know she's wonderful, and she really does kind of like, we Zoom. She's in New York, and so we Zoom regularly, and yeah, it feels almost like family, where it's like, wow, like you care, like she cares about us, she cares about the work, and she's also like, everybody else seems a little like nervous when they're around her, like who work with her, because she's, I'm sure, a cutthroat business lady, and we definitely understand that this is a world where sales matter, numbers matter. That's how you get paid. That's how you get re-signed or not, or other people interests. Like, obviously, that's a very real part of it. But like along the way, I think that what's worked best for us is just to keep our nose down and keep working hard. And then we'll feel good about all the money that pours in one day.
That's right.
Yes. Yes.
To support the Fungeon.
Right. The Fungeon no more. We're raising up. Yes. We're living in the castle. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, first of all, thank you for all your impressions. I feel like these are going to be great pull clips for the top of the episode when we go to edit this.
Nice.
But I appreciate like how, I feel like, we've gotten a good feel of like who you are over the interview, and you are, I feel like, very unfiltered and candid in your life anyways, but I appreciate you coming on and just sharing that with us. Like, it's so interesting to get, an insight into the work and like how you guys work together and collaborate, and, walking around and sort of crowdsourcing your critiques. Like, I love that. That's not something I've ever considered before. And it's kind of brilliant because, yeah, you want your work to resonate. And I've gotten a ton out of chatting with you, and it's been really enjoyable. So thank you for coming on.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. And I hope to talk to you guys again in the future, and wish you all the best. All the best for sure.
You can come on anytime, and I can't wait to see Birthday Bear. I'm really excited. February 6th, is that right?
Oh,
is that when it comes out?
No.
No?
February. Oh, that was the release for the door that had never been opened before. Was last February 6th. Birthday Bear comes out in October. Birthday Bear will come out, and then Baby Grandma, Baby Grandpa next spring. And
amazing.
Spring 25.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that.
Man, those got a lot of promise for me.
Amazing.
Real solid concepts there.
Amazing.
Right on. Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much, and I look forward to listening to it. And big shout out. Oh,
go ahead.
Big shout out to all my kiddos. I love you. Daddy loves you.